We're going in on part 5 of the Master Key System, and this is an incredible personal development book. The way that it was explained to me was that read all of the personal development books that you have on your list about communication, about leadership, about this, about that, habits, 7 effective habit steps, and leadership, and all this stuff, and then come to the Master Key System. And I'm happy that I ever did come to the Master Key System. This is one of the best books that I've ever ingested through Audible and audio form, but I'm very happy that I did. For 2 reasons, this book is incredible. One is that there is a practical step to implement at the end of every chapter to ensure that we are integrating what we learned. A lot of books and information that we read and absorb is just passive. And it's just information that is held in the mind as some storage in our memory bank. But to actually implement it is the part of learning that shows that we've actually learned it, that we're actually doing what we know is best and to influence our lives in the right direction. So the practical step is one of the best parts about this book. And the second reason why this book is incredible is because the language is easy to understand. Somebody who's 7 years old could take in the information of this book and say, yeah, this does make sense. It's super straightforward, easy to understand, and at the end of the day, it's kind of obvious, and how did I not understand this? But it is a different way of seeing the world from what we're taught. The first few chapters of this book go over the conscious and subconscious mind. One mind, 2 modes of operation, the organs connected with those mind, things that influence them and how we use them is the first few chapters. And we learned that 90% of our mind, 90% of our life is operated by the subconscious mind. We do think that we're making decisions with our conscious mind, to buy this, to go here, to do that. But the subconscious mind that's operating in the background, responsible for the growth of our nails, our blood flow, our breathing, our sleep. The subconscious mind never sleeps. It is connected to the infinite and is always working, always listening. And it's the conscious mind used consciously that we repeat certain scenarios or affirmations or teachings, and then they get ingrained into the subconscious mind. So for example, you did not have to even think about brushing your teeth today or what technique to use or if you were doing it right, because that process is subconscious. We've done it so many times, we've learned how to do it for decades and decades that now that is a routine subconscious activity, and most of our life is operated in that fashion. So if we want something to be automatic, it does have to be repeated enough that it gets into the subconscious mind, that it becomes automatic, that it becomes effortless, that certain thoughts of positivity, we don't have to try to think. At the beginning, yes, if it's something new to us, we do have to think, we do have to practice, but at some point, we practice it so much, it gets ingrained inside of us that it becomes subconscious, and that's what we're looking to influence here, if that is the part of our mind that governs 90% of our existence. The result of our mind is the result of heredity, and where we are right now, evolution of the human species, and all of the things that got us here is the result of where we are now, all of our ancestors, existence that got us to this point in human evolution. Part of that is grown into us and is why we're here right now, as well as things that happen to us in this lifetime, social circles, learning environments, school, work, and family. Those things influence our state of mind right now. And the reason why we are the way we are right now is because of our environments, the things that we've learned. And if a thought from those environments or from people around us seems plausible, it gets into our conscious mind without any analysis. It gets ingrained into us. It sends it to our subconscious mind, and it goes to our sympathetic nervous system and becomes a part of us. So for example, if somebody says, okay, life gets harder as you get older, and that seems like a plausible idea, or it doesn't go through any sort of analysis, it gets ingrained in us. And then we start to believe it. Then we start to embody it. And that's how we are where we are right now. So the thoughts that get ingrained in us and that stick with us and that become a part of us are the thoughts that we entertain. The things that we have going on in our mind at any given time do become a part of us. In this chapter, Charles Haanel uses an incredible example of building a home. Building a home, if we're building our dream home and what we want, we would use only the perfect materials. We would find only the finest things, the finest wood, drywall, anything that is of high quality we use to build our home. We want it to be nice, we want it to be perfect, lavish, abundant, beautiful, and that's what it's like to build a home. But we also have a mental home that we are also building, but we don't put anywhere near the same consideration in building our mental home. Our mental home is infinitely more important than our physical home, because anything that will enter our life will happen through our mental home. When we are building our mental home, we only want to use characteristics of the highest quality. And this is something that we don't even pay attention to, but our mental home is where we spend all of our time. So it is of the utmost importance to pay attention of what's going on in our mind, what thoughts are we building, and what thoughts are we entertaining. If we're entertaining thoughts of fear, of worry, of lack, of anxiety, of negativity, then the mental home that we build will be of the same kind. And then we're going to have to fix things in that home. There's going to be leaks. There's going to be, a draft coming in, and it's going to look ugly. It's going to be broken down. We're going to have to fix things left, right, center, and things are just going to have to be repaired. And it's going to be a stressful thing because that home was built upon those principles. Now, if we build a home upon positivity, upon optimism, upon the highest that we can think of, it will be a lavish home. And we do have to be careful of this, of every single material that goes into this mental home, because it will become a part of us and it will reflect in our life. So building our mental home, it is important to refuse to entertain any thoughts of negativity, of lack, of worry, to refuse to associate with any of those thoughts, to refuse to entertain, to refuse to embody any of these thoughts of negativity, because that's not what we want in our home. We don't want these things to be in our home. We don't want these things to be in our life. So at the point on that construction site of our mental home, if we see those materials, we absolutely disregard it. We don't even pay it any attention. To pick it up and to throw it out is even effort, and that is to entertain it. But to just leave it aside, certain thoughts that we don't want to have, we could just leave it aside. And we don't have to embody it. We don't have to go on this journey with the thoughts. But when we do see it and we do see that it's something that we don't want, we do have to leave it aside, because we are not building a home of worry, of anxiety, of stress, of fear. One of the aspects of our mental home is to do a mental house cleaning. Throughout the day, we're going to be thinking thousands of thoughts. And part of being aware is to observe these thoughts. And it's like going in a sandbox. Every thought, every scenery is a sandbox that we can play in. And when we are playing in these sandboxes, we don't even realize it, because we're like a child who is so absorbed in the sandbox and just playing with the shovel and pail and playing with sand. You don't even realize how long you're in the sandbox or what you're doing or anything around you. And it's similar to our thoughts when we get on a train of thought. We do need to be aware of these things and understand what sandbox we're in at any given time. And is this going to serve me to my highest purpose? Is this going to serve me to where I want to go? Why am I playing in this sandbox if this is not something that I want to entertain? And it's literally that simple to understand that we're in a sandbox that we don't want to play in, that we don't want to be associated with. We don't want this in our life, that we just get up and go to a different sandbox. And that is the awareness that it takes to understand that we're thinking. We don't need to identify with the thoughts, but we do need to understand what we're thinking and what it will cause, and that we can absolutely think about something else. And to understand that we have this power, that universal power, that spiritual power is omnipresent, it exists everywhere, at all times, in everything, is actually the power, is to understand that we have it and that it is here, to be aware of it and then to use it. This is the benefit of spiritual practices, is that you don't need to be somewhere and you don't need to do something. Spiritual practices are always with us and they can always be used at any given time. And this is the awareness that we need to have, is that we are all powerful, that spirit energy, that infinite energy is always pervading through us, and that we are responsible for being aware of that and using it consciously. When we realize that we have everything that we need inside of us, then opportunity, people, circumstances which seem to dictate our existence and how things go do not matter. They do not matter at all. We have all power inside of us, and to be aware of that power and to use it is the key. What I mean by using it is to actually give service, to use these powers. If we don't use these powers, they're not going to be powerful. Energy goes where it is used. We can't store the energy. We can't hold on to it for later. Just like when we want to get better, if we want to work out our bicep, it's not to rest it and put it aside and put it in a sling so it can rest and gravity can't touch it. The idea is to use it, use the energy, then energy flows through us, and we are a conduit. We are a live wire, and energy flows in and out of us when we're using it correctly. And that way we expand the gauge of our wire, our capacity for things to flow out of us and for energy to flow to us. Now we're on to the practical step, which is similar to the previous practical steps before. And if you haven't practiced these steps, I highly urge you to go back to part 1. At the end of every chapter in this book, there's a practical step. At the same time, I have those in my video as well. At the end of the video, the practical step is there. So parts 4 to 1 at this point, we should be 1 month in and very familiar with this practice of going and sitting in a room quietly and closing our eyes. That is the baseline, and we should be doing that for at least a month at this point if we're on chapter 5, because each part should be done for at least a few days to a week. So in part 5, we have been closing our eyes, we've been sitting quietly, we've been relaxing our body intentionally, we've been relaxing our mind and trying to inhibit all thought and then get rid of negative thoughts. So part 5, we're somewhere along that line. We're to the point right now where we are going to start to use our mind consciously. And in this part, we're going to do the whole routine. We're going to sit, and we're going to do this for a few days. We're going to start to try to paint our ideal mental picture or setting. We're going to try to build a beautiful landscape, whether it's by the beach or there's trees, whatever place is heaven on earth for you, you're going to build that and build it in detail. If there's animals, if there's a certain kind of flower, if there's wind, if there's clouds in the sky, how much sun, what kind of a home is there, what the setting actually looks like, we're going to go into detail. And as we do this, we're going to find out that we're going to be thinking about everything under the sun except for our ideal setting. And we're going to have to bring our mind back to that thought, to that idea, to that purpose while we're sitting there. And we're going to find out we're going to have to do this multiple times. Multiple times we're going to have to do this, and it's going to show us that focus and attention are not easy at all, especially when we're sitting in a room by ourselves with our eyes closed. We're going to find out how much the mind actually wanders, but this is the whole purpose of this practice, is to get used to this and refocus our mind on what we're supposed to be doing, which is creating an ideal setting. So good luck with the practical step in this chapter. If you have any questions, drop a comment. If I need to revisit anything, we're going to keep this journey going of the Master Key System. This is bringing me great knowledge for myself as well, and I hope that you're enjoying as I share this with you and learning from this. Thank you.